There's nothing wrong with wanting certain things and a certain kind of lifestyle, good quality and substance. But we really have to, the thing is we attract what we are. So we have to be those things. We have to be willing to give those things before we want to get them. And we have to be willing to become the intelligent, the beautiful, everything. The most important relationship of all time. And that's our relationship with God, you know.
Yeah, so while we're on the topic of relationships and whatnot, I feel relationships require certain things to be sustained.
Yeah.
And away from you being too qualified people and whatnot, I think there's also the aspect of time. I feel like relationships need time. I feel like time is a way of you expressing your love towards a person. It may be a parent and a child, or a sister and a sister. I just feel like time is one of those ways you communicate that I love you and I'm here for you, because I feel, I don't know how other people look at time, but for me time is such an important asset. What do you think about that?
That's very, very true, and we see it in our everyday life. Personally, I'm very sensitive with my time. I've come to a point where I feel like I've got so many things to do in so little time, and so the time I have to prioritize. But it's not just me. I think everybody really just gives time to what they love. If they don't love something, they won't give it time.
They won't give it, and also not just time but quality time.
Yeah,
as Kaboni earlier stated, time is of importance even in the family setup. So if we put it in this slide, say for example I have these busy parents and they're never really giving me time.
They're giving me everything else
but
time.
Quality time. I'll never really sense their love, especially for females to some extent who are sensitive. You'll find because of that lack of time they won't read the love, and because of that they'll go seek it from someone else. And what happens after that?
And that's vultures.
In addition to that, I would say that with time, bonds are formed. So the more time you give something, the more your relationship is established with that thing.
You're sharing about your life.
So if most people who spend time watching TV a lot of time, even if they're not paying attention, they just make it a routine, like, okay, I'll spend this amount of time on the TV. You find that it begins to become a routine, and you begin to become passionate about it when you're away and like, oh, okay, I really wish I was watching TV.
I need to watch TV. I have not watched anything.
Yes, because with time the bond is formed and established.
Speaking of bonds and time, I think it's the same thing with our relationships with God. In as much as people talk about going to church and whatnot, I feel like in growing your bond, as you said, growing your bond with God, we need to give Him time, and not just any time, quality time, not leftover time. It's one thing to say, I'm going to pray, and then because you are swamped up in everything else, you just
counting down.
Yes.
When it's just going away. It's like you're in the meeting and you're like, okay, this meeting is 2 hours.
Why
counting every second.
I've read the Bible verses, I've read enough and I need to go now. I feel it's not supposed to be that way. Even the whole make time, it's not about you just finding time, because a lot of people will say, I just didn't find the time, I was busy with work. You didn't make the time. I think for the things we love, we make time.
We really do.
Nobody is saying, I'm going to go for a movie whenever time comes. No, people are setting time. They're saying on Friday at 14, I'm going to go watch a movie.
This may sound funny, but even in the classroom setup, those people who love food, and then it was break time and you didn't eat. In class, you will find the time to eat. In the middle of the math lesson, you sit at the back of the class and eat whatever you missed out.
You're going to be eating all your snacks.
Find time for it.
So it's not a matter of just saying, whenever time comes, but at the end of the day, if somehow my programs don't manage to reach 20 hours, I'm going to pray. I think that's one thing, but it's another thing to say, I'm going to sit down and no matter what happens, at 22, I have a date with God. At 22, I have this meeting I have to attend. At 14 hours, I have this mentorship session I have to attend. At this time, I'm supposed to be reading the Bible. I think where we put direct, settings on these things, that's making time, and that shows love to me.
It really does.
And I, for one, also noticed that it's very difficult to actually make time for something you don't love.
Yeah.
Because going back to school, you find there are those people that are consistent in their studies, and then there are those that are not consistent in their studies. And for me, I was one of the latter. I wasn't consistent in my studies, and not only that, even with prayer as well, considering the time we started our 5 hours prayers, I was lacking consistency until Dad preached about, until in fact this is an earlier sermon that he taught on, where I got to learn that you actually need to love something for you to give it to value.
That's true.
So until I began to genuinely, and I don't mean just making it up that I love this thing, to love God, I genuinely began to cultivate a relationship with Him, and from that love stemmed, and I'm able to make time properly for these things. And the same with my studies are but I noticed the difference between, going back to studies, the difference between those that are consistent and those that are not is the love.
The love. Love causes you to do certain things. You know, the Bible actually talks about how the love of God constrains us. It makes us do certain things. You know, you will feel sick when you haven't done it. Have you noticed? For people who, you know, they just got this job that they love and they're making money, and they're so excited to go to work. They're so excited. You're excited about giving away your time. You don't feel like you're losing anything. If anything, you feel like you're benefiting. I feel like when you love God, or when you're desiring to love Him, you're pressing on growing your love for Him and becoming a lover of God. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to watch the hours go by with God. It's a pleasure to put in time for mentorship. It's a pleasure to put in time to study His Word. It's not something that you're dreading, because it's one thing to say, I love God, so I'm sitting down, and you're forcing yourself in your heart of hearts, you don't want to be there.
And just on that particular point, you know how, what's so interesting is sometimes you can love something and not know it. And you cannot love something and not know it. So meaning that you may think, it's possible that in your heart and in your head, you're like, I do love this thing, and just so convicted according to yourself, but the truth is it's seen in where you're taking your time with it. So a lot of Christians today, they say they love God, and they'll say, you know, God, He created me.
So especially entering our houses.
I think it's seen, like God sees how much time you're actually spending, not just posting on social media to say God is enough, God does it for me. Like, you're not doing it for the world. It's about how much time you're actually giving Him in your day. And so in 2022, we know where our time goes are going. We are showing our love for God.
Our love is going to...
We're not just confessing.
I mean, if you were telling me that you love me and you never put in the time, I would question your love.
Definitely.
I would question your love.
Yes. And I think it's very famous, people breaking up or having issues simply because of time.
Yes, actually, I know somebody whose relationship ended because of that. Time.
But he's giving you money. I thought money was enough. I thought it was enough to host you and do what. Even with families, I feel like some parents feel like it's enough to just pay your school fees and make sure there's food in the fridge and whatnot, but not spend time with you. And I noticed that cripples a lot of children's growth.
It does.
You notice that the child is going to have a lot of insecurities. Perhaps there was never that parent to just spend time listening to all of their silly dreams.
But and you know what's interesting? Not to go off track, but even with giving God time, it's that, have you noticed when you spend time with somebody, you begin to look alike?
Yeah.
You know, it's you begin to gain their attributes.
Yeah,
and I've seen it even in my friendships.
Yes,
even in my friendships, you know, you find yourself saying certain words that only your friend will say. And even when somebody else is like, why are you acting like this person? So you've been spending so much time with them, and I feel that's one of the things about being Christian and why it's a lifestyle. It's because the reason it shows is because you were investing time with God. And so your lifestyle also reflects God.
So even away from showing the love and you wanting to show love to God, in giving Him time, something is happening in you. Away from, He's not really profiting anything from it. It's actually more of your benefit, more of my benefit as a Christian. Me putting in the hours, me taking the time, I'm changing into His image. We're starting to think alike. We're starting to like the same things. You know, I feel like it's even easier to get to know God that way. People complain that I don't know what God is saying, I can't understand Him. You haven't been spending time with Him. How are you going to know him? I mean, for me, if somebody were to come and tell me something I know Tasha would never say, I would just like, no. Tasha would never say that. She said it, I have a recording. No, Tasha would never say that. It's the same thing with God.
I think you just said something really important that I feel needs to be echoed out.
Yeah.
Again, you said that it's about putting in the time first.
Yeah.
So meaning that we said that what you love, you give time, right? So we said you have to love something first before you give it time.
Yeah.
And then you also brought up the fact that you have to give something time first before you get to love it. So
I think it's a paradox.
So I guess it's on both
intertwined.
ends. It's two sides of the coin. You also have to spend time with God to get to know Him and love Him.
But I noticed for many people that have grown up in churches, not with building a relationship with God, like to some extent, let me say, religious. They've grown to know Christianity from its religious point of view. They tend
to the book.
To the book, they tend to not really understand like the love, the intricacies of love and loving God, and some to some extent spiritualize these things.
Yeah.
You see, because someone has grown up in the church for a very long time, and by doing certain practices, they think, okay, maybe I love God, but okay, the time I'm spending, I have this to do,
I know what to do at church. Yeah.
And then there's also that folk of people that are struggling in that area, but coming down to the core, I feel they just to bring it out, loving God to some extent should be a product of conscious decision.
Yes.
This is the point I was trying to say.
No,
it's just coming there.
I hear you.
Conscious decision. You know, where we think, how do I love God? I do this.
How do I hear God? How do I get close to God?
Conscious decision.
There's some things you don't need to be prayed for. I think nobody's going to come and lay hands on you and tell you, love God now. Love God now. You're going to it's something you need to decide for yourself. Like, I'm going to love God and I'm going to put in my hours. And in that way, your heart for Him grows. You start to know Him away from the book. You start to know the intricacies of His heart and His mind and whatnot. It becomes easier to even fellowship with you. Because I remember in the sermon I was listening to, that talked about people who know God via experiences. And people who know Him via conscious decision and deciding to study Him and spend time with Him and hear what they say. So these people who, as you said, they've grown up in the church, they know the falling, they know the worshipping, they know all of those dynamics of Christianity. And then there are those who've made a deliberate decision to firstly put in the hours to study the Word and hear, okay, what's, you have the ability to hear God's voice. It's just that you can't decipher which one is God's voice.
Yes. Just on that point, I think a practical way to put this is how you can be with somebody but you don't really know them.
Yeah.
So I could have lived with you in the same house every day and still not really know who you truly are, because I'm just getting you on the surface. And it's the same thing, like somebody, this is why some people commit suicide and yet they were laughing with you. You know what I mean? Because you didn't really get to know what's going on. Like you were not really giving them your time to a level where you are paying attention.
Yeah.
You are just giving them your time because by your physical presence.
Yeah, you could
exactly.
be in church, they're
so
worshiping, God is moving, and
yes,
you're there, but you're not really
there. Yes, so I feel it's time somewhat coupled with effort and attention.
Yes,
that kind of time. So that, I think that's what we're calling quality time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.